Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate the movies. I'm your host, Jay Light. Joining me today, Chuck Roque.
Hey.
How are you, Chuck?
Good. How about you, man? How you been?
I've been pretty good. I've been holding up, you know? Everything's pretty good, all things considered. That's that's like the standard answer these days. It's like, all things considered, everything's all right.
Where are you standing on, like, the current comedy situation? Are you hitting parking lots or on Zoom comedy at all?
I've done a little bit. I mean, since the stay-at-home order went back in place, I haven't done anything except for a couple Zoom shows here and there. Now that stuff is lifting again, I'll probably be more on the lookout for some outdoor shows. But I don't really. I went to, like, at the very beginning of the craze of, like, when open mics were going on outdoors. I went to a couple and I was like, oh, this just feels weird. Like, there's something about a show outdoors that feels a little bit, like, legit, but a parking lot open mic really does just feel bad for the soul in some way, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it really taps into the true degeneracy of stand-up comedians, I think.
Yeah, dick jokes on pavement just hits different.
Oh, yeah, man. And just drinking out of brown paper bags and...
Yeah, it's the whole 9 yards.
Oh, man. I remember there was one a long time ago. This was way back when the National Guard was in town. And there was that open mic that was going on in Burbank at the Fry's in the parking lot out there. And there is, it's some sort of military operation across the street from there, and the National Guard, who were stationed in LA, some of them were staying in that place. So the parking lot that week was full of, like, Humvees and military vehicles, and some of the National Guard people were like, what's going on over here? And they came and watched for a minute, but then they didn't do anything about it. They're just like, yeah, whatever, you guys. This is all you have. Just go for it.
Wow, man. We're out there with the soldiers. That's our country these days.
Exactly. Well, we are soldiers. Like, we're soldiers for the truth and for free speech. Oh, God. Dumb takes. All right. Speaking of dumb, this movie that you brought to my attention today, Apollo 18. Oh, my God. Why?
Right?
Why?
I know. Yeah. They're like, I think we were mentioning before, there's always something good to say about a movie. Someone who, like, loves movies, you know, the directing, the acting, costume could be good. But this movie hurts so much too, because this was the first time, like, my dad and my brother let me pick the movie. Like, I remember seeing the poster, before, and I was like, Apollo 18, space, sci-fi, found footage, and horror. I was in my head, I'm like, this is gonna be the best movie, and I'm gonna be the one to take us there, and we're all gonna love it. And that was the first time I felt disappointment. Like, I felt my dad disappointed at me. And leaving that theater, I was like, wow, this is what a weird, like, shame. This is what happens when you make a decision and it's the wrong decision.
Man. Yeah. And you saw this in theaters. So this must have been, like, was it opening weekend? Was it packed?
You know what? It was opening weekend and it was still empty as hell. That was the canary in the coal mine.
Oh, God. Yeah, you should have known.
Yeah. But I was all hyped. I remember, like, it wasn't even like, I mean, back when theaters were open, you'd keep your finger on the pulse of what's coming out that weekend. But I remember as soon as I saw that poster, I was, like, bugging my dad every, like, weekend. Like, oh, okay, hey, it comes out in a month. It comes out in 3 weeks now. It comes out next week.
Like, you had it on the calendar. This is appointment viewing.
Yeah, like, if that had come out around my birthday, that would have been a Apollo 18 themed birthday before I even saw that movie. Like,
wow,
that's how hyped I was on it. And it's so boring. It's
so boring.
Mind-bogglingly boring for that concept. They didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, like, and it's not even slow. Like I would understand if it was a pacing thing like Paranormal Activity, which I'm also not a fan of that movie, but you can tell what it's trying to do. It's deliberately paced in such a way where you have this tension that builds, and then you have the payoff with the way the movie pans out. Apollo 18 is paced poorly on top of being boring. So
Yeah.
all of the scares, all of the jump scares happen in places where it doesn't make sense for them to happen, and it's just like none of the tension is there in order for any tension to get broken.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't connect with anybody there. You don't you're not really even like afraid if they're about to die. That's like never even like a thought that crosses your mind. Yet, yeah, I don't know. It's because there's movies that are bad, like The Room, where you could tell there's an artist's mark on that.
Right.
But then there are movies that are bad like this, where it's so shallow, it's so unimaginative. I feel like as soon as they figured out, oh, we can make like a 70s look, and we can recreate like what the cameras were back in the day on Apollo missions. Mm-hmm. That was it. That's the only thing that sold. I mean, and it worked because like they got my money out of it. But damn, dude, I'm always shocked that like, because it takes a village to put a movie together. So many people had to say yes. So many people had to watch this and was like, all right, okay, yep, that works. And I saw it all the years ago, so I don't remember much. First of all, where did you see it?
I just watched it. Literally, I finished it about an hour ago, and I watched it on Netflix.
Oh, it's on Netflix? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I'm going to have to dabble in that again.
You don't need to, though. I mean, you're not missing much. I was so bored. Especially when I do movies for this podcast, and more in general now, but really, really when I'm trying to do stuff for an episode, I put my phone away. I'll pay as much attention as I could. I couldn't help but just grab my phone and like scroll through Reddit while I was watching this movie, and I didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
This movie's 86 minutes long, and 75 of them are utterly inconsequential to this movie.
Yeah. It's almost like B-roll. It's almost like the whole movie's B-roll for a better movie. Mm-hmm. Because I remember does someone get sick on the ship?
Yeah. So the way that the movie pans out, the plot is a crew of astronauts from the U.S. They are told after Apollo 17, hey, you were going to go on this classified mission from the Department of Defense, and you're going to go land on the moon. And then they start running into these rock aliens.
Yeah.
One of them gets inside the guy's suit and then his body, and then infects him with like rock alien disease. Sort of. So not only is it shitty B-roll that is trying to be cobbled together into a found footage format, but it's also a obvious ripoff of Alien at that point too.
Yeah, yeah. That is the biggest thing that I do remember that like made me hate it was the reveal. Was when they finally show the monster that they've been alluding to the whole movie. It's rocks. It's rocks. That's what I was like, this is an insult. It's literally rocks. And if that wasn't enough, they don't even like show you the rocks doing their thing. They're like, oh, we have a Polaroid camera with a flash. So the last like 5 minutes of the movie is just pitch black, and then you get a flash of rocks. Like you're just taking iPhone shots at night in a park. It's literally that bad. It's
an edgy Pokemon movie. They're just fighting off rocks in space the whole time. That's it.
Yeah.
Here's the big problem.
The screenwriting is atrocious.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost you for a sec.
Oh, it's all good.
But
I'm here.
the screenwriting is atrocious for someone to even consider rocks to be the villain is beyond me. It just shows such a disdain for the human intellect and for entertainment in general. And then I remember too that wasn't there like plan because like their ship crashes or something, and then they're like, oh, we need to get back to Earth somehow, and then they're like, oh, there's an old Russian Sputnik you can just hotwire and take that back to Earth. Isn't that like part of the plot?
There's a Soviet lunar lander because what they discover is that the Russians launched a mission that landed on the moon, and they find a dead cosmonaut in this crater that's been killed by the rock aliens.
Yeah.
And they go in, they use the guy's old lander because it's totally functional. All of the stuff that they need is there. It launches into space, but then it's still like, it's totally, like even describing the plot right now is making me mad.
Yeah.
Because it's so simple, but in a way that doesn't feel well executed. And it's hard to fuck up something that badly. It just is.
I know. It's because like you're accepting, there's a certain, you accept disbelief for certain movies, for this fantasy, for like, okay, you know, there's not a real Jurassic Park, but I'll entertain this thought. But like sometimes it's so like your cop out, your solution is to use like an old, like years old Russian technology that American astronauts are going to be like, oh yeah, I could just pick this up. I could just get in it and then we're going to get back and I'm going to see my kids and we're going to have breakfast and that's just my job.
Right. I think a part of the problem too is that the acting is fine. The acting is not like hurting or helping this movie, but the actual plot, if these actors are not like name people, if they had gotten some big names maybe to play into this movie, or at least people who were like on the cusp who can act well, they could have elevated it at least with the performance of this garbage script. But the fact that they got just like totally middle of the road, just guys who seem like they got ripped out of a soap opera, and they're like, this is going to be your big break, Warren Christie and Lloyd Owen and Ryan Robbins. This is going to be your thing.
Household names.
And they just show up. Exactly. And they just show up and they're just like doing their job and they're doing okay. But none of them are acting in a way also that's like, I think because of the script, where it makes sense. Like the fact from the very beginning, when you see that the guy who gets sick is clearly sick. Like his skin's changed colors. The guy's just like, oh, you look a little out of it. Huh. Well, I guess we better check. Are you bleeding? Huh, that's weird. And there's no urgency to what they're doing.
Yeah. And then I mean, this is a huge problem for found footage in general, but for, you know, and those reasons, like, why are you still filming then? If he's bleeding, it's like, why are you still filming? Why are you still holding up this con to what end?
Yeah.
You know, like, and that just shows like no one knew what they were doing. That was like a ship where everybody who knows how to make a movie made a movie. It's like, yeah, you turned in the project on time, but there was zero vision, and it's so weird. And I kind of wish I didn't pick this movie because there's so little to pick at. It really is like coming to Thanksgiving 2 days late, and you're just like, all right, like, what else is there to talk shit on? Because honestly, we've surmised the entire plot.
Right. I mean, the biggest problem, it speaks to something even larger than Apollo 18 as a movie. And I didn't know this until I looked at the Wikipedia page. So obviously this movie is critically maligned. Everybody hated it. They're like, this is super derivative. It's very bad. The budget for the movie is $5 million. It made $26.2 million at the box office.
Oh, shit.
So, and I remember this came out, right at the height of the found footage phenomenon this was like the cresting of the wave that Paranormal Activity had started way back in the day. Because, like, Paranormal Activity officially got released in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And then Paranormal Activity 2 came out in 2010, Paranormal Activity 3 in 2011, and Paranormal Activity 4 2012, and then, like, 2 other movies came out the next couple of years. There's all of this other found footage stuff that happened over the course of that time frame. You know, I'm looking, they've got, in 2011 alone, there are like 13 different found footage movies that come out.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And found footage isn't the easy genre to make because it's cheap. It's cheap as hell.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the excuse of we're going to make a found footage movie because it's cheap and we're going to make a huge profit off of it. If you made a found footage movie that actually had a good script or good actors or both, then it's going to pay all those dividends way better off down the line.
Yeah. They were just banking on that margin you were describing, right? They're just banking on, it is cheap to make. So we're going to, I mean, at the end of the day, the producers got their laugh. They got a profit of $21 million on that somehow.
Right. But that's, I mean, at the end of the day, like everybody's still chasing that high that Blumhouse had with Paranormal Activity. And nobody's been able to hit it. They made, budget $15,000 for Paranormal Activity. They made $193 million off of that movie.
Wow. Even like to segue to a good movie for a bit, Unfriended.
Mm-hmm.
That is like incredible, like to have a concept. It's like, okay, it's just all going to be on a computer screen. And then all no-name actors,
right?
That goes to show how good a screenplay can be. And like, I mean, it's redundant to say like, yeah, the screenplay is like the most essential part of a movie. But damn, to get that creative,
exactly,
to really use your brain and to like, okay, this is why people are stuck on the screen. Versus like going back to Apollo 18, it's like, okay, yeah, it's found footage, and I'm going to record all the creepy stuff happening to my co-pilot astronaut. But it doesn't make sense. Like, I wouldn't be holding a camera if he was really dying, like versus Unfriended. They thought about all those loopholes beforehand. I mean, and that's another Blumhouse. What company made Apollo 18?
Apollo 18 was made by Dimension Films.
Oh shit. So those guys make Saw,
Yeah.
They just churn out shit. And the whole gimmick was found footage in space. That's all they said in the meeting was, hey, I have a found footage in space. And then someone said, shut up, and I'm going to write you a check, carte blanche.
Exactly.
Here's $5 million, get it done. I mean, I can't believe there's 13 found footage movies in 1 year.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They piggyback off this trend because they're trying to hit big. But even like, not even from just like a creativity standpoint, Unfriended, I think, is a good example of what you can do right when you're trying to work on the cheap and you make something that resonates and does well. Like Searching, same thing, right? Same sort of format, not a horror movie, but in the same vein where it's all taking place inside of a computer screen and you got John Cho doing a great job. Even like Project X.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not a good movie. But it's fun, and it's obviously like this huge outlandish comedy. So of course they're gonna put in all of these like crazy set pieces. The script of the actual jokes there, I think you can say that because there's so many like huge set piece jokes, like the guy with the flamethrower burning down the whole party. Yeah. This is great.
Yeah,
it's super funny.
Yeah, it's going to its market. It knew it was going to like high school kids who wanted to like feel what a party feels like. So obviously their standards aren't too high. And like you said, the Project X for what it was, it knew who it was selling to. So it hit out of the park.
Right.
Like Apollo 18, it's so fucking disrespectful because it's like you made this horror movie and it's like, all right, if you're going to give us bullshit 90% of the movie, let's just get some blood. Let's just get some action at the end. Let's get the horror payoff. And then just for them to put rocks there, dude, a placeholder. a placeholder is like who? So it's like, who are you selling this to? It reminds me of when they remade like Ben-Hur like 2 years ago, and it just tanked.
Yeah,
they tried to make it seem like a new like Divergent or something,
right?
But it was also homaging a classic Ben-Hur. So it was like, what's your market? It's like, oh, we're going to combine 60, 70 plus seniors and like freshmen in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to say whatever to everybody in the middle, you know? So it's like these high concept executions. I feel like it speaks to producers who just use test audiences.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong on this because I feel like even a test audience would not have approved this, but like people are so afraid to take a risk. And I really, honestly, I don't know why this movie is so bad besides greed, besides just pure, simple greed, honestly.
Yeah. Well, because it's the most, as far as all of the found footage films that I've seen, it's the most naked, blatant attempt to just capitalize on a concept and a style of filmmaking and make money off of it, because it does not only make dumb choices to include like Roque as a villain. It also assumes that the audience is too stupid to figure out, hey, there's no reason for these guys to be filming this.
Yeah.
Like I remember thinking very actively when the guy is trying to kill him. The guy who's infected is trying to kill his his fellow astronaut, and the guy still is holding a camera in his hand, filming him, and just like backing away. And it cuts to another shot. Like if you would just use the shots from the cameras inside the ship, in the lander, that would have made sense.
Yeah,
you know, it would have been at least better. But then you're like, why is this guy holding? And you can't get that out of your mind unless you are an absolute fucking dum-dum.
Yeah, dude. Unless you're just straight, just like a cat watching the screen, just following motions. You're insulted, man.
Exactly.
I'm so
and listen, no shade to stupid people. Stupid people need movies to watch too, but like at least get like Hollywood. This is a Bob Weinstein movie. Weinstein, please. Just assume that your audience is a little bit smarter. Just give them a little bit of some credit.
Yeah. I guess this goes to like that movie, The Producers, right? Where they figured they can make a bunch more money on a flop than spending the time to pay a good screenwriter or something.
Right.
But damn, dude, you gotta understand, like growing up, I've always been about movies. And even now, like PAing and camera work, I don't see myself ever doing anything else but movies. So I have such a high respect for the craft and like where it comes from and all the history of it. So like when drivel like this does get produced and greenlit, it just makes me so sad. It makes me like, damn, dude, there are kids out there that are breaking their asses trying to get to like film festivals, or like they don't think their screenplay is good enough, you know, and they keep rewriting and doubting themselves, and they got to get it perfect. And then you just get shit like this. And then it just proves that, oh yeah, it is just a money machine sometimes.
Yeah. It's just a cash grab. Sometimes people are just going to be like, all right, what are we going to do to prop up the risk of these other like properties that we don't know about? All right, let's do this stupid thing and then see what happens from there.
Yeah. So it I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
It's sort of a two-part question here. So, you know, I do tend to ask people what they think could be done to make this movie better. And I think specifically one of the things that came to mind for me watching it was like there is one thing that maybe could have helped this movie out. And I want to know what your thought on this specific thing is too. This movie's a PG-13 movie. And I feel like if it was rated R, it actually would have been a little bit better, because then you could show off some violence and maybe some more stuff with the Russians. You could show like a little bit of, I don't know, maybe not necessarily gore, but like something that was a little bit more tough to stomach for a PG-13 audience compared to an R-rated audience. But that's the only thing I think that maybe could have saved this movie as it stands. Like, even if you didn't change anything about the script or the actors, if you had just had a few more gore shots, I think maybe it would have helped this movie out. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great fix right off the bat. To like, anytime there's like a PG-13 horror movie, I think horror fans would like to see that PG bumped up to the R for like the reason you're saying. That would have made, have some makeup effects on that guy, do some more. It doesn't have to be like aliens bursting out of his chest, but like, just have some more blood dripping off him or something.
Yeah.
No, but the main fix, bro, is the fucking rocks. It's the rocks. At the end of the day, you got to come back, because that was when my dad started thinking, okay, maybe you should start working for me instead of like going your own route. If you think this is like quality, like that. The rocks ruined everything, man. Because it's like you're going back to that disbelief. You're willing to believe that there's like a Sasquatch on the moon. You're willing to believe that there's some sort of mutant monster thing. That would have been fun, but like for them to just be like, oh, that big rock you see in the sky, that itself is evil because it breaks off into little rocks that shake. And it's like, what? And that doesn't scare anybody, like, even if you didn't show anything, even if you like just didn't even show the rocks, bro. That's how bad it was. You could have like chainsaw massacred it. Like, okay, they didn't show me the villain or they didn't show any deaths, so I have to like assume the worst.
Right.
But damn, dude. And then just how they executed it at the end too. Like, oh, we don't have any idea what our main villain is. They made a horror movie without knowing what the horror was, which is what's so beyond me.
Right.
And then they kind of kept phoning it in every day. And then by the time they get to the last, climax of the movie, someone is like, shit, dude, we still don't have a villain. And then they're like, okay, well, we're just going to use some of the rocks on set. And then they're like, well, that's not going to be scary. And he's like, I know. That's why we're going to just show it 1 second every 5. That's why we're just going to have a little bulb flashing.
Right.
And give the audience a seizure. Hopefully they seize out before the credits roll.
And then, maybe they can go home and be like, oh, I love this movie, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And they were like, wow, they had to call ambulances for people at this movie. That's how insane it was. I mean, they should have just done that.
Oh, that would have been the marketing immediately. If they had people having seizures in the theater, I mean, that's what happened with Paranormal Activity. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember even there's a moment that I'm thinking back to now, having watched it, where when you find the cosmonaut in the crater, the dead, he's dead. I, for a second, thought that maybe it was going to be like a zombie thing where like he was attacking them and not that he was getting dragged out of the crater. And if they even just went so simple, just to have the aliens like not give you a disease, but like possess you or body snatch you or something. And then they have this small contingent of like possessed Russian cosmonauts.
Yeah.
And then their own guy who gets turned and they have to fight them off.
Yeah.
That's God. I mean, that's at least it could still probably be total dog shit, but at least it's fun at that point, right? Like I would rather see a space zombie movie than a movie where rocks are attacking people.
Exactly. Because it's like with Call of Duty when they came out with Nazi zombies, that just saying that is like fun. You're like, oh my God, Nazi zombies. It's two evil elements that come from like weird, opposite spectrums of evil, and you combine them and you can like mow them down. So yes, if you get like zombie cosmonaut, or zombie alien possessed cosmonaut, that'd be sick. That could be like a Halloween costume, the same way like they use like those Stranger Thing, face thing.
Yeah, the Demogorgon faces. Yeah.
The Demogorgon, like if you would have just had that for the last scene, if you would have had the wherewithal to like understand like, okay, we're already making a bad movie on found footage just to flip a profit. Let's make it a little fun, like you said. If we would have just like leaned in more on the camp.
Yeah, people got to Roger Corman it. They got to take like a fun stance. Make a good B movie. Yeah,
damn, Roger Corman it. That seriously would have solved it for real, and that's a good way of putting that.
Well, hey, I mean, at least we figured out what they did wrong, and maybe we can keep people from making those same mistakes.
Yeah, Apollo 19.
Yes, absolutely not. No Apollo 19. No, no. Okay, so people should not watch Apollo 18.
Mm-mm.
What should they watch instead? What would you recommend?
Unfriended and Unfriended Dark Web for just because I feel like a lot of people don't watch those movies because they assume it's going to be like really bad, but those are sleeper hits. Those are really sleeper hits.
Yeah.
And then the other movie that I kind of wanted to bring, I was deciding between Apollo 18 and this movie. Have you ever seen Splice?
I have. I've done an episode on it, actually. Oh, God.
That was another movie. Those movies really killed my love for sci-fi. I'm like, it's still lingering with other things, but they really did damage to sci-fi for me.
Yeah. I remember I did an episode on Splice with Connor McSpadden a while back.
Oh, nice.
Years ago. And he and I basically have the same standpoint in the movie, which is the moment Adrian Brody decides to fuck the alien, the movie's over.
Yeah.
Like it was all right up until then, and then that happens. You're just like, all right, you lost me.
Yeah,
it's not going to stand up.
And if I remember correctly, right, he fucks his daughter alien,
right?
Who in turn is like a hermaphrodite at the end, who then like becomes like a man who grows a penis and becomes like this demon, then like rapes his wife. And then they have some weird Antigone alien space baby at the very end.
Yeah, it's a real weird movie. It takes some twists and turns that like it just gets too outlandish. It's too Cloud Cuckoo Land at that point.
I think that one, like it just goes too far into like your subconscious to like the Freudian questions that you shouldn't ask. Like the Adrian Brody sex thing should have been the only thing that they talked about in that movie.
Right.
But they just keep going further and explaining this weird alien incest angle, which to their point is truly horrific. It really just makes you feel uncomfortable the rest of the movie. But I don't know. At the end of the day, is it art? Is it entertainment? I don't know. It's in its own league, I guess.
I mean, all I know is I'm not watching it again.
Yeah. It is the Sophie's choice of sci-fi movies.
And it is better than Apollo 18.
It is. Yeah, because there's something to talk about. It's closer to like The Room, I guess, because it's like, hey, what if this is just awful? What if I just told you this completely awful story? Whereas I'll go back to Apollo 18. It's just pure disrespect. It's just pure, I'm just going to distract you for 85 minutes while I'm taking money out of your pocket. That's literally what the movie is.
Yeah. Like, I'd rather watch a swing and a miss than somebody who's basically just staring at you, laughing at you while you're throwing the ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I watched The Snowman this weekend. And The Snowman is a total disaster. Absolute disaster. But it's a fun disaster. It's a disaster that it doesn't make sense that the movie became as bad as it was and exists the way it does. And that makes it kind of fun.
Yeah. That's a horror?
Sort of. It's hard to describe. It's like kind of a horror movie. It's more of like a crime drama. I mean, there's some blood and guts and stuff, but it's just like, it's hard to describe.
That reminds me of like Jack Frost. Wasn't there like a movie where it was like a horror movie?
There were two, yeah. There's the good Jack Frost with Michael Keaton, who's a nice snowman, and then there's the bad Jack Frost with that's an evil horror movie snowman.
Yeah. I just remember that cover in Blockbuster scaring the fuck out of me.
Yeah, because it's a hologram, and you walk past it, and it becomes the bad snowman.
Yeah, you remember.
Oh, I totally remember. I used to walk by that because I used to go. I would when I was a kid. My mom and I would go to Blockbuster together because she would go like figure out a movie, But I would always go wander the horror movie section because I was way more intrigued by the covers of those movies. And so like Jack Frost and Terror Tunes and all of these just like crazy DVD and VHS covers. I never watched any of those movies, but they captured my attention.
Yeah. I was always too afraid to watch that Jack Frost one, but I remember there was like that commercial, that Campbell soup commercial where like the snowman comes in after and he's and he melts and he becomes like a kid or something. And in my subconscious now, those two are always intertwined. So it's just like a really scary, nostalgic memory I have with all that.
Yeah, that tracks. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Well, Chuck, this has been a pleasure, dude. Even though Apollo 18 was garbage, I'm glad we were able to get some decent analysis out of it.
I finally, because I have such a high respect for what you do, man, for like all the movie stuff, and you're clearly a cinephile, someone who gets it. So I'm glad. I feel unburdened.
There we go. I'm glad we got there. Where can the listeners find you and see what you're up to if they want to see what you got going on?
B12 Chuck, B12_Chuck on Instagram is the only place I'm really doing stuff.
Cool. We'll go check out B12 Chuck. Go follow his Instagram, and you can find me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram. And if you like the show, please tell a friend. Subscribe to the Patreon if you're feeling your oats a little bit and you want to get some bonus content. And that's about it. Don't watch Apollo 18.
Don't ever watch it.
Thanks again, Chuck.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
This has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.